Welcome to another episode of Adam's Everything EV, and I'm extremely proud to have Will from Indigo. Will, why don't you introduce yourself and just talk about what you develop?
Great, Adam. It's great to be here. Thanks for talking with me. My name is Will Graylin, and I'm the CEO of Indigo Technologies. We call it IndiGOtech. And then I'm also at the same time the CEO of OV Loop, which is a next generation wallet and sustainable commerce company. I've been working with sustainable transport in terms of next generation EVs since 2020, right before COVID, when I took over IndiGOtech, and Go for short. A little background on myself, maybe for some of the folks that don't know me. I came out here to Boston back in 1998. Right after serving 6 years as a nuclear submarine officer, to come out here for graduate school. And ever since then, during the middle of writing my thesis, I actually found a passion for entrepreneurship. And I would have to just credit my professor at MIT to ask a very simple question that still stuck with me after all these years. And he asked a very simple question. He says, "What's the difference between innovations and inventions?" And lots of hands went up. And he finally stopped us after a couple minutes and he says, "Let me give you my simple definition." He says, "Innovations are simply inventions that made it into the marketplace, got mass adoption, and made an impact. There are many, many inventions, but very few innovations, because there's a chasm, a valley of shadow of death that you got to cross over. And it really takes a intrepid entrepreneur to be able to, go through all the hurdles and be able to do everything from product market fit to capital raising, team building, execution, distribution. And there are many ways to die along the way. But if you're strong enough and gather enough of a great team and go and execute, the journey is very worthwhile." So I've been on that path actually ever since then. My previous 4 companies were all been very lucky to have gone through, from invention to innovations. All 4 of them ended up getting to mass commercialization, and they were all acquired by large publicly traded companies. My last one being Loop Pay, that became Samsung Pay, and I was the global co-GM of Samsung Pay for about 3 years, which was what I committed to them to help them launch Samsung Pay to compete against Apple Pay. And but I've been in mobile payments. I've been passionate about entrepreneurship and also passionate about EVs. Having been a nuclear submariner, as you can imagine, sustainability means a whole new level for me. And because we end up, having to make our own nuclear power, make our own electricity, make our own, water, oxygen, even scrub our own carbon dioxide. By the way, that picture behind me is the USS Florida, where I served. Actually, my son is actually in the same sub base serving on USS Alabama right now. As we speak, he's flying in today on break. We're going to go to his brother's graduation and commissioning ceremony next week at the academy. His brother is going to be a naval aviator. What I learned from being on a submarine is you have to really think systemically. And as you think systemically, because there's nobody else to rescue you when you're out there, 75 days underwater, you have to understand the entire system. So when I went to MIT, got into entrepreneurship, and I saw the emergence of what was becoming the EV revolution, I got very excited. I was one of the first adopters of the Chevy Volt, then on to becoming one of the first adopters of the Tesla Model S back in 2012, if you remember. And passionate about sustainability and electrification. I invested in a number of companies, including where I am today with Indigo, initially as a board member and investor. But then we ran into a crossroads in 2020, the beginning of 2020. We developed this really cool technology called the smart wheels. So for the first time, you actually can have a smart hub motor that not only has propulsion in each corner, but also active suspension that allows you to move up and down and act like a muscle on each corner to create unbelievable stability and also comfort. But it also creates a huge amount of space in between. And I'm happy to share with you a little bit more if you're interested. But that's the backdrop of me getting into the next generation EVs and how I got involved with creating not only the smart wheel technologies, but the next generation of ride, hail, and delivery vehicles. And from there, we call these vehicles the Flow. This particular vehicle allows just a smoother ride, a roomier ride, yet a lighter weight vehicle that uses a smaller battery, which makes it more cost effective because it's very difficult to get traditional OEMs to adopt a brand new technology coming out of MIT. So what I did in 2020, seeing that this technology wasn't going to be the Intel Inside very quickly because the large OEMs were, trying to catch up with Tesla and very hard for them to change vehicle architecture. So we were either going to die or I invest more money, and I actually jump in to take over to take it from invention to innovation stage. And it was a hard decision because I was already CEO of OV Loop, at that time. And we were trying to do something very ambitious with a universal digital wallet in the first place. And since then, I've raised additional capital, restructured the business plan, refocused from a technology company and invention towards really an innovation and vertically integrating to deliver the next generation of services for this growing market of ride, hail, and last mile delivery. We designed and built this really cool vehicle that we're about 2 years away from commercializing. We want to take our time to make sure that we do everything right. We're in the path of raising our next round of capital. We just made an announcement that we finished our Series B raise, and in there was Foxconn, who's a large contract manufacturing that we're going to be relying on some of their help to help us get to market. Also, FedEx is an investor of ours. They really believe in the solution. It's through that process that I met American Lease last year, and they saw our vehicles and said, this is ideal and perfect for the New York City taxi limo commission market and the ride-hail market for Uber and so forth. As they were exploring our vehicles, we also saw that they were, just acquiring all these Fisker vehicles. And they made a commitment to go electric. We started talking, and they were initially looking at, how do we help them with a solution that can take over part of their fleet for managing the Fisker cloud. Because, we were doing a lot of software on our side with OV Loop and with Indigo. And we understand, all of the complexities with dealing with ECUs and VCUs and having to deal with over-the-air updates. But the Fisker environment was a whole new environment. So they brought us in to talk with Fisker. And initially, Fisker thought that we were going to be able to just, split and have a whole new instance of the Azure environment, the AWS environment. We were going to split off, the T-Mobile bills onto one side. And all our job was to do was to basically, upkeep, run, and continuous to keep that environment going.
Can you tell me a little bit about the challenges within that Ocean vehicle? I think you were getting to it anyway, and with the cloud and make that development, and then what you decided to do there.
Yeah, absolutely. They haven't filed for bankruptcy yet, in late summer of last year. So we were right in the middle of transfer. In fact, we were transferring data to our hosted Azure environment. I had, a bunch of my team members go in there and start really looking at the Fisker cloud, which was much more complex than we originally thought. And they put it into many different environments. And at that time, Fisker cloud was literally receiving about 1 terabytes of data from all the vehicles that are out there and processing them, storing them, and they were fixing bugs as they were going, and they had a whole team of people, several dozen, that were still trying to maintain. They had a lot more people, but they had to do a bunch of layoffs. But even towards the end, they had a few dozen people just to keep up the cloud. So we were all ready to take over the cloud, and right before bankruptcy, we got the word that Gene had left, and it was more and more difficult to figure out how we're going to actually do this. And at the last minute, we were told that there is no way for us to only take over the American lease vehicles that were there. And what ended up happening was that all the endpoints were programmed in ad magna, and all the T boxes are going to call it the same endpoint. And there's no way to split the baby unless you go in physically hardware, rechange the T box to go into another cloud. It's just not possible. We did try. We were like, is there any way to hack a system where we can manage that? Because, it's not our business with all of the rest of the vehicles other than American Lease. When we found out that there was no way to do it, we were talking with the trustees, and they finally just made a decision and asked us, "Is this, can you guys take over the entire cloud and just manage it?" And we said, okay, well, let's do a systematic process. And starting January, let us get to know the rest of the environment, and we'll go into the current operating environment and start studying it and understand it. And in the meantime, you guys keep it up until January. Well, it was right around that time the final release of the OS, which is version 2.2, as you probably know, was being basically developed and finished, and they were starting to do OTA. And as you may also know, we found out later that the 2.2 release was really a mega release. It was the biggest release that they've ever had. And it's because they were going bankrupt, they tried to shove everything in there, and including all of the NHTSA recalls that had to be in there, plus a bunch of bug fixes and improvements. So that was a extremely bloated release, which is more than 2 GB, and more than a dozen, I think close to 16 ECU updates. And it was very, very difficult. They were having a hard time. They were starting to break, the OTA team that was there was starting to break cars. And the trustee all of a sudden put a halt to it. And they said, we're stopping all OTA releases. And in fact, the insurance had lapsed for, all the liability insurance had lapsed. And they're breaking cars, insurance has lapsed, and they basically held up their hand and said, we're not going to do any more releases, as you may recall back at that time. And so the entire OTA team stopped, and we came in and we looked at the situation, and they asked us, can we put this on your insurance policy? Can you guys take over? And can you guys take over, as of, middle of November? And we got to accelerate this. And I'll be honest with you, it was not a very great situation for us. But American Lease have been talking with the FOA, and they've been talking with the trustees. And effectively what they said is, we're going to take over the part of the bill, and FOA has agreed that they would take over part of the bill. Because when we were even looking at Azure AWS and T-Mobile bills, together they were adding up to about $300,000 a month. Somebody's got to pay for that bill. The trustees weren't willing to pay for it. And then finally the trustee agreed with us to say, hey, we will pay you a certain amount of money to do the NHTSA recalls and to finish these OTA updates for NHTSA recalls. And here's a certain bucket of money for you guys to do that. We did some calculations. So if the FOA is willing to pitch in, American Lease is pitching in for their piece, and a certain amount of money from the trustees, then there's enough money for us to dive in and really pull these pieces together. Because when we look at the personnel, one of the first things that I look at is if we don't have the support of the Fisker employees and those who are understanding how the system works, it's going to be very hard to do, pull this off. We interviewed a whole bunch of folks, and we try to understand, who we have to hire and who has to stay on in order for this environment to maintain. And And we knew that it was just a huge amount of work that we had to do between our team and their team and supplementing all the people that had been fired and people that were fleeing because, as you know, the ship is sinking. So given the situation that we're in, we decided that, yeah, let's go ahead and do it. We have FOA. They committed that they were going to put up a certain amount of capital. We have American Lease, whom we trust. We've been working with them for a number of months, and they were going to buy our new vehicles, which I'm happy to show you a little bit more about, just so that your audience gets an idea on what that is really all about.
Absolutely.
And then we have the trustees that will pay a certain amount. So together it should work. Well, lo and behold, we marched down and I, flew to California. I met with all these people. Our team just, galvanized, and we had to go and recruit back a number of people that had already left. There were attrition. You can imagine it was difficult, but nonetheless, a lot of the team that stayed, they were very committed, and our team was committed. And the team that stayed, including software engineers that we, were bringing on board, to really make the system stable. And as we're making the system stable, we started, to work with the FOA to say, okay, for your members, this is, how are we going to inform them? You guys work with the external facing. We'll just handle the technology. We'll just handle the technology in the back. We got to do our jobs. We'll deal with and work with American Lease to help their vehicles. So we started working with American Lease with their vehicles. And then on the OTA side, we started working with the FOA to try to initially do it in a systematic way. We started with like 50 at a time. We, try to let people know that, hey, don't touch your vehicles because this is a difficult release.
And that's a tough communication to make, right? How long and obviously you're testing it as well.
Yes, we're testing it, we're experimenting, we're monitoring it. We were having daily stand-up scrums to just seeing how we're doing every single day initially. And what we found was that it was very slow process. It was very difficult. It's such a big release. What it means is that the high voltage cannot be turned on during that time, and then you're relying on the low voltage, basically your 12-volt battery, to sustain a period of time while we're updating. And the way that it was structured means that you may update, the T-Rex, and then you may update this VCU or this ECU, and if the 12-volt drops below a certain point, we got to stop everything, recondition the battery. And if the battery drops too low, you're in a very unstable state, right? So these are part and parcel of the challenges. So structuring how we designed this OTA update, and the most important part was we have to update the NHTSA recalls. It's a safety issue. We have to do it right. And we gathered our team together and we said, look, we can't continue to try to shove 2.2 as a big bulk. So we ended up going back to engineering. We cut it up into 3 different releases, and with 2.2.1 and then 2.2.2 being priority. And once 2.2.1 is done, then we can do 2.2.2, and we can systematically do it much more effectively. And we started to implement that process. And at that time, we explained it to the FOA. It was very difficult for them to communicate because there's so many different people that we had to deal with. But we're being very factual to say, hey, this is what's happening. Can we get our agreement in place also based on what we had originally in good faith on a handshake that, this is the path forward. And in the meantime, we try to cut down the cost of Azure AWS, and we put a whole team of people to go in there and understand why, all the data storage cost, the processing cost, the compute, all of that is costing so much money. And frankly, the way that it was designed, it was very complex. We were communicating and keeping all the vehicles connected and storing their data. So we started cutting some of the data transmission. We started, trying to make the efficiency higher to reduce the cost. And bottom line is, as we're doing that, we're also doing a bunch of bug fixes. So I, kept the team on board and recruited more team members, in fact, just to fix these bugs that we see. We say, okay, when we're done with the 2.2.1, 2.2.2, then we can look at, adding the next level of release so that we can get these bug fixes out. For American Release, it's easy because we have a dedicated team to be able to help them fix things. But for FOA, it's more difficult. We promise not to communicate, with the FOA members, because the FOA organization was very strict and say, you shall not communicate with them and you shall only go through us. So out of respect for them, we haven't done any communications. We're just letting them work with the FOA members. And I'll show you some of the new things that we've been doing. Actually, some of it is quite exciting because I've been driving, a Tesla, and I would love to have some of these new features. And I've been driving a Fisker, also just to experience what it's like. So between the Tesla and the Fisker, there are certainly key differences, but we're trying to catch up to bring some of these new functionalities like Android Auto, CarPlay, and so on and so forth. And I'll get into showing you some show and tell here in a minute. I won't get into the nitty-gritty details, but to wrap up the short of all of this is that I think the FOA probably underestimated how difficult of an environment this is. I think they underestimated how complex the system is and how hard it is to keep up a legitimate system. So they have been doing, their own hackathon and their own work. And we basically said, as we started running into issues and trying to negotiate, they were having a hard time understanding why the Azure AWS cost is so much. It is what it is. We shared bills with them. We were very open with them to discuss. We even offered to have a deep dive session with them, line item by line item. We offered multiple times. They haven't taken us up on it yet. And we offered to speak with their members to share with them, the work that we've been doing. But they really just feel that maybe they could save more money and try to do it on their own or something to that effect. But we know that it's very, very difficult. So I don't know what they can or cannot do, but I know what we can and cannot do. So anyway, I'll let you ask some of your questions to be more specific.
You inherited basically an environment that you were not familiar with, you were forced to implement a NHTSA recall through a software update that was too large to implement. And on top of that, you have two different entities you need to provide this for in different ways. And on top of that, you're also having to do bug fixes, you're working on improvements, and you have to keep a stable environment. And then finally, you have this bloat of data, which you've already showed me previously, has been reduced by almost half already since you've taken it over. And all of these challenges at the exact same time, also with a strict deadline on providing a solution. Is that a close enough summary of what you've had to deal with so far?
Yes, absolutely. And we have obligation, obviously, to do the NHTSA recalls. And we're currently at around 86, 87% of all US vehicles that have completed version 2.2 or 2.2.1, 2.2.2. And we should be over 90% here, including the Fisker American lease vehicles that are out there. And there's going to be just a slew of vehicles that we don't even know the status of, whether they're still on the road or not on the road. So we've explained to the trustees that there will be our jobs to get it over 90%, and we'll continue to do that. The long tail is going to be harder and harder. Those are the more difficult cases, and there may
off
be
the road, wrecked, whatever else situations, right?
Yeah, and some of them are not even online for us to be able to do the OTA updates. So we're confident that we'll be able to get over 90%. But the long tail is going to be harder and harder to achieve. So in short, American Lease have been footing the bill all this time. For the AWS, Azure, as you can imagine, there is pressure on us, there's pressure on them. And the idea was to share the cost, not only on T-Mobile, but Azure AWS. And I think there are a few people in the FOA that somehow, believes that, those should be, zero or, something that that's ridiculously low. And it's just not the case. And those costs are the costs. And as much as we're driving those down, and I'm happy to, show you some of those efforts that we've been making. But bottom line is that when they refuse to pay some of these bills, and American Lease has been paying for the last 7 months now, or 6.5 months. American Lease says we're not paying for these anymore. You're on contract with us. Shut these other units down, and unless there is there's someone that's covering these costs, it's too much of a burden for American Lease. And certainly we're the technology provider at this point, and we have contract with American Lease and the obligations to the trustees for the NHTSA recalls. And FOA still have not paid us 1 penny up to this point. And unfortunately, we're at a very challenging situation. But what I do want to be able to share with the members now for the very first time, to speak directly with them, since we won't have that capability through the FOA, is that we've been working very hard to keep the system stable, to keep the cloud up and running, to reduce the overall cost so that we can be sustainable. We want to be able to have these vehicles out there for 4 years, 5 years, and beyond. And we know that many of the owners, including many of our employees, are owners of Fisker Oceans, and we want to keep them healthy out there. So we've been looking at ways on how to do that and how to support FOA to achieve that. But unfortunately, we haven't had the chance to even be able to present what we can bring to the FOA members. And instead of having these, hacked solutions and promises of applications and promises of tools to be able to get back online, there's only one FOCE cloud. And that one cloud is what we're currently maintaining the health of, and maintaining new software updates too.
You spoke earlier about an endpoint, and this was something I've covered on the channel previously. There is only one endpoint, and that is something you guys are in possession of or working on or have access to, and basically is the only way to connect to these cars because the T-Box is engineered in a specific way. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct.
I know you have a ton of things that some obviously you can't share, but I'm sure there are things that you would like to share with the audience, just to give us an idea of what you're developing and,
sure.
and what that looks like.
You want me to share my screen and maybe give you a flavor of what that looks like?
Oh, that'd be great.
What we're doing is really next generation smart wheel technology that's born out of MIT and invented by one of the most prolific inventors out of MIT, Professor Ian Hunter. And we are not only building these smart wheel technologies, we're also building smart EVs and smart mobility services, Adam.
Okay.
And our focus is on affordable ride hail and deliveries for our communities. And you'll see, why FedEx and Foxconn decided to make an investment in us.
Well, I love the footprint and the purpose-built design. Looks really cool.
Yeah, well, I'll tell you, I'll skip over some of this. I think you already know some of my background with MIT, the Navy, and my previous several companies that I was fortunate enough to have gone through. And taken from invention to innovation. We have a great team of folks, including the, former CFO of Ford China, former CFO of Byton, and people from Tesla and GM, and so on and so forth. And our board members, great group of folks. From FM Capital to Foxconn and so forth.
It looks like a very diverse set of people. That looks really, really cool.
Yeah, terrific group of folks. And the market that we're going after is really this growing market. E-commerce is not slowing down, Adam. Ride hail is continuing to grow, and so the need for the kind of vehicles as we migrate to electric as well as migrating to autonomous. This red represents the growth. And as consumers' driven miles starts to come down, us going to the grocery store less, us going to the mall less, even restaurants less when we order food, right? Maybe some of my grandchildren will not even get a driver's license when it's so plentiful and easy to get a ride. But those who are giving us rides and delivering our food today are still using their gas cars because they can't really afford an expensive EV. And even if they can afford it, where are they going to charge it if they're living in an apartment? And how do you get it to go to the grid? And that's something that is not easy. So bottom line is that we're dealing with the grid that's limited by level 2. So if you want to bring in level 3 charging infrastructure, it's going to be very expensive. And most places are not supported for that. So light commercial EVs and light passenger EVs are going to be the key. Heavier are going to be harder. How do you go to light commercial EVs? You start with looking at how EVs are constructed. What moves a vehicle is usually the most critical part. What moves a horse carriage, the most critical part is the horse. So, but they tend to look like horse carriages when we first moved an engine underneath in that Ford quadricycle that you see there. And it wasn't until new propulsion systems that were big enough that fit into a Model T that created this two-box design. Well, why are we still at a two-box design when we have no engines? Why do we need a big bonnet in the front? Why are EVs so heavy and wasteful? And it's because the propulsion system. The propulsion system today, you have a motor in the middle. And the bottom line is when you have a motor in the middle, it takes up space. You got to make the vehicle bigger. Bigger is heavier. Heavier means you need a bigger battery. Bigger battery means even heavier, more expensive.
Yeah, very slippery slope of diminishing returns. Yes.
Exactly. And some people says, what about hub motors? Right, moving the motor to the wheel. Well, that technology has, can save space and save components, but that's been around since 1900. It's nothing new. And what it hasn't been able to solve for over 100 years is the physics of suspension, which is called the sprung mass to unsprung mass ratio issue. So unless you have 10 times more sprung mass, meaning the weight of the vehicle versus the wheels, you're going to have a bouncy and unsafe ride. You've seen, those people do those rides. And for us, the only way right now for people to make a lighter weight vehicle is to make them small and bouncy, and neither of which are what we want. So what we have invented out of MIT is the smart wheel technology. For the first time, your audience is probably going to be exposed to the smart wheel technology that basically shows that we have two stators. You can see an inner stator and an outer stator that allows us to not only spin the wheel and put rotational torque, but also pull it up and push it down to be controlled by a computer system that you can train, just like you can train a skier to absorb bumps and potholes, and to be able to solve that sprung mass to unsprung mass ratio issue. Now we're no longer limited by 10 to 1. We can be 5 to 1, 4 to 1, even 3 to 1. So we can make a much lighter weight vehicle, and you can see all the space that we free up. So we can have a smaller outside for a bigger inside. That means a smaller battery. Smaller battery means lighter, faster to charge, all the benefits. And that means we can create a new vehicle architecture. Now, Adam, you might be asking, okay, why don't you just license this to Ford and GM and Audi and Volkswagen, and why don't they just, go run with it? Well, it's because they're already building their existing architecture, just like the picture that I showed you earlier, off of existing car frames and the existing means. So for them to make those kinds of change, they're not going to adopt a brand new technology to do that. So it's much easier for them to retool and use existing. So
proof of concept through success somewhere, right? They would need that. They want you to.
They would need somebody else to basically design and build a vehicle to prove that it can be done.
That's right.
It wouldn't be moving in EVs if Tesla had not been, vertically integrated all the way. In fact, even set up their own charging stations to convince early adopters like me to prove that this can be done. Right. So we decided that we have to prove that this can be done. And as such, we know that there are major advantages to our architecture. We know that we can make vehicles more agile to do things that they weren't able to do before. So this is a 1971 Volkswagen Beetle doing the dance. And we were able to do a proof of concept a couple of years ago to show, how easy it is for us to do a smoother, more stable ride. You can see the difference between traditional and in this vehicle here. So to be able to to use our smart wheel motor to provide tremendous amount of torque vertically and horizontally, and to be able to move the each corner independently up and down. You can see here the motor can actually push the vehicle wheels up and down to keep the vehicle stable. But in this case, when it's stationary, it's just pushing the frame up and down, you can see.
Wow.
So the ability to have maneuverability on the right-hand side, this is us doing a moose test. So that means, being able to, you can see, keep very stable as you turn left and right, going high speed. So you don't, do a roll if you're trying to avoid an accident and then, flip over. There's so many flipped over turns, and that causes 75% fatalities as these turnovers. This is 4 of our smart wheels. Even this is the last generation on a track test. And our next generation actually has twice the torque of this for both vertical and acceleration. But all of that is great. That's technology. But how do you serve customers, and how do you focus on customers? So we're focused on ride-hail delivery, as I mentioned to you earlier, Adam. So we brought in Amazon, FedEx, Uber, and we got feedback from them. And by the way, this is the chairman of FedEx. And this is November of 2023. And 1 year later, November 2024, we delivered the first smart wheel powered show car that we can drive at their parking lot. And this is just exceeded all of their expectations. And
I think it's a great looking thing too. That looks great. I love it.
It's a beautiful looking car. We designed it from the wheels up and from the inside out. And we said, what do the drivers want? How do we design this for the future proof to be drive-by-wire, to be ready for autonomous, to be layered in, so that it can be human driven and it can be autonomous driven. And bottom line is we can have a better utilization of space, easier to get out on the left or the right, so that you don't have to fight traffic and only be able to get out on the left, like most cars today. And you can get out on the safer side. You can have better utilization of the space, and not only horizontally, but vertically. And look at how easy it is for us to step in versus a conventional car with an axle in the back. Imagine you're the guy on the bottom having to do that 100 times a day.
I was a mail carrier, so this really hits home for me.
Yeah, that big step or multiple steps to get into a vehicle is very difficult. Look at these larger vehicles that you have to take multiple steps to get in. It really hurts the knees, and you do that 100 to 200 times a day. Compared to this, one step to get in, and this is our smaller version of the vehicle. A FedEx chairman can almost practically stand up here. So 30% lighter for the same amount of carrying capacity. That means 30% less tire wear, less pollution. You can see that we got the smart wheels being able to do the dance here. That means keeping it stable, making it easier to absorb bumps and potholes. This is at FedEx headquarters, as you can see here. And our goal is to create the next generation of vans that are not only class 1 like this that replaces the Transit Connect, but also class 2, class 3 vehicles that are equally have that low step in, better utilization. That means the entire vehicle can be lower, it can be lighter, and we'll have a PHEV version of this for the larger vehicles and vehicles that can carry passengers. So speaking of passengers, as you know, the same vehicle chassis and platform is really designed for ride-hail and consumer vehicles as well. Because for Uber and others, they need vehicles that their customers can have better experience in, rather than being cramped in the back of, you don't know what's coming in an Uber X. And if you want to, get an Uber XL, it's going to be much heavier, much bigger. If you want to go electric, that size of that battery is going to be enormous. Not to mention, you got to take 2 steps to get in. So I was actually just met Dara. It was just yesterday. Hearing him speak and hearing him talk about Uber's future, Uber needs better experienced vehicles. Uber needs to be able to move into autonomous vehicles that are roomier, smoother, vehicles that support wheelchair access without having to have a lift kit. Look at the low flat floor here. And for these reasons, you can see this particular vehicle, our ability to have that low flat floor to move chairs around and to very quickly change to facilitate packages, luggage, wheelchair. This is why American Lease made the first 1,000 unit order of our FlowRide QC. So now you see the genesis of the American lease relationship that we were driving towards, because they want to see these vehicles out in the streets of New York City. And in addition to the Teslas that they've already bought, and they know that by 2030, this is going to be yellow cabs, right? There's going to be Uber rides, Lyft rides that need this kind of vehicle. So the versatility of the FlowRide, you can see here how roomy it is inside. By the way, this is Governor Healy of Massachusetts. They absolutely love the fact that we can have that kind of a solution, low flat floor, easy ingress, egress, extremely supportive of what we're doing. And the size of this vehicle, believe it or not, Adam, is actually smaller than my Tesla Model S. The footprint, 7% smaller than my Tesla Model S footprint. So this is
efficiency, ergonomics, maximization of space, weight reduction, and it looks good. I'm a big fan.
So the center driving seat can pivot 180 degrees as a captain's chair if you want to just lounge around afterwards. But more importantly, to be able to very quickly switch between ride, hail, and delivery, right?
That's so important.
And be able to be autonomous ready. So we're now just starting to showcase. In fact, this was this week earlier. At Climatech. We're one of the showcases. We just showcased this month at ACT Expo. So this is finally us being, open and sharing with the rest of the world that we're coming out, and everybody just absolutely loves our solution. We even have OEMs now talking to us finally about leveraging our platform and our solution. And this is, the chairman of Foxconn and our board member, Seki-san, and chairman of FedEx, CEO of FedEx Ground. We brought them all together, and we're going to make this happen. People love our solution. They're supporting us. This is why they've made the investment. This is Dara, actually, a couple of days ago. And this is our contract manufacturer. And we're going to, before the 2 years of bringing the Flow in, we also want to bring in the Dash. The Dash is these smaller vehicles. We're working with our Korean partner to actually manufacture and bring these to us. So we have OEM support of the Dash and the Flow. The Dash is actually coming out towards the end of this year. And the Dash is about half the size, but also about half the cost. And we're talking about sub $20,000 after the rebate. And as you saw, the rebate is going to remain for companies like us that haven't sold 200,000 vehicles yet. So this is great savings to fleets. So we're very excited about where this is going. We're setting up aftermarket support right now for the Dash at many different locations. We're setting up all the systems. And part of what we were even contemplating doing was to, get the parts and inventory and actually officially train the Fisker Ocean mechanics that had started, but then were kind of left on the lurch with the bankruptcy. We didn't want to do it unless there was real support and real customers that we need to service. But we now have the means to march forward with that. Should either we work with the FOA or should the customers and the owners want to work directly with us? Either way, we have the means. We just now got to figure out: do we work with the FOA or do we just see if any of the owners want to have us help them set up officially the aftermarket support? Going beyond the vehicles itself, we're vertically integrating to look at deploying some of these Oceans and also certainly the Dashes. We have customers that want to buy the Dashes and want to order the Flow Ride and the Flow Cargo, but we also find that there are aggregated services that they want us to provide in certain locations. So we're going to provide some of this going out there as well to service communities, in Massachusetts and in other areas where there's a demand for us to aggregate and provide a fleet as a service. So I'm going to pause right there and see if you have any questions for me before we get back into talking about the Fisker Ocean and where it is right now and what kind of work we've done for the Ocean. But needless to say, you can see that we've got tremendously exciting solutions that we're bringing together between OV-Loop and Indigo. OV-Loop on the software side and all the support side in terms of hardware, software development for the vehicles. The team at Indigo, both my teams are just working tremendously hard on this vision that we've crafted out.
Well, first of all, I want to offer congratulations because it seems like your team has really gone extremely far in this process, and it looks like you're very close to a full-scale deployment. So congratulations on that. And also with the Dash, that price is excellent. So if you've been able to work in where that makes makes sense for you. That's an extremely noteworthy achievement. I have been advocating for lightweight and smaller vehicles, I mean, since EVs became viable. And it looks like you've been on the same path. That's really cool.
Yeah, absolutely, Adam. I mean, I think this is like impedance match to the grid, right? The
For
grid is
sure.
meant to support vehicles that it can charge easily, and it needs to fit the application. So if we can have the right application, there are different vehicles for different applications. If we find the right vehicle for the right applications, and lightweight efficiency is absolutely super important for this day and age to match the grid.
All of this technology, or basically the things that you could implement for the ocean, you were in the process of doing that for not only the oceans for American Lease, but in the event of the interest, the FOA and the members and owners as well, right?
Yeah, we were doing all of this on good faith, Adam, and I've had my team of engineers working on this, and with ex Fisker engineers working alongside with our team. And this is some of the work that we've been doing. And I'll just run down some of this very quickly for you. We've been working. We just haven't been able to communicate with the rest of the FOA members, and the FOA management is really the ones that we've been interacting with. But unfortunately, there's been some animosity. They think that we're trying to, be a big company trying to screw the little guys, which is not the case, as you know.
Yeah.
We're working hard in earnest to actually deliver value to FOA members. I was going to share this at their town hall tomorrow, but now they've canceled the town hall, so I might as well just share it with you. But in earnest, these are the things that we've been building: support for CarPlay and Android Auto integrated into the main screen, and even being able to mirror your phone directly, onto the main screen.
Wow.
A lot of work has been done. We had to go back to the suppliers in China to be able to deactivate some of the security screens so that we can actually have our keys and our devices being able to be compatible. I'll show you the aftermarket devices to get Android Auto integrated, but it needed the ECU support and the HMI support for us to be able to integrate. Otherwise, you can't just take an aftermarket and plug into the Fisker today. So our ability to work with Alexa for voice control, so that you can command Siri, Google Assistant, and use Alexa. Bunch of new features that we're doing, allowing for movie mode and playing horizontal, allowing for range reset, so that you can reset the range in terms of how much range is left based on if you've been aggressive. The last release will just only deal with your most aggressive driving behavior and not allow you to reset. Pre-drive modes for regen can be tied to your pre-drive mode. Torque vectoring and hyper mode, setting different sounds, exterior sounds for you to select. The theme control for dark and bright mode. This one I think is going to be very useful. The standby mode, we're going to extend it to 2 hours. I mean, it sounds like a very simple feature, but the feedback we've gotten is 10 minutes is too short, because you go to the grocery store, you come back, you want standby mode to be already on standby rather than taking more time to reboot and turn on the vehicle. Just little things like this.
These are really important features for owners and people who are familiar with driving the ocean.
So a lot of our engineers are actually ocean owners. That's why we look at us being in the same camp, right? And a whole bunch of bug fixes, which I won't even go into detail, but these are just some of the bug fixes that we've already fixed, during the course of the last 6 months. I won't go into detail, but you can see.
Oh, they'll definitely hit the pause button on this for sure.
Instead of updating the chip, we figured out a way to get the solution to make some of these HMI changes, and I'll show you. So these are just some of our development team, and our development team had to even go to China and sit with some of our suppliers to get some of these changes made. Others can be done obviously in the US. But you can see this is part of the development process of connecting CarPlay and Android Auto. But because we can have access to the source code, and we're working with the legitimate system to be able to apply the software changes, we can actually make these changes, turn them into to production changes.
These are still things you can make available to individual owners in the event there's interest. Is that correct? In the event.
Yeah. So I think what we'll do is we'll probably just create a application that will allow owners to sign up for themselves, and they can decide, hey, this is worth paying for or not. Do I want Android Auto to be coupled and paired to my phone, and I can have the full navigation screen, and I can fix these bugs, and there's somebody there to continue to support me and connect me to the cloud, allow me to use my phone app to manage the solution. We'll probably come up with and have a new application to give them more features and functions and give them cloud connectivity, and we'll keep all of these systems up for them. And also any diagnostics. We're gonna put official tools out there that legitimately connects to the cloud. We've been allowing some of the hack tools out there because of we know that some of them are friendly to us, and we know that we want them to eventually be official tools vendor with fast tools that are connecting to the cloud. Then some of the offline tools that are out there we can't control. So if folks are going to create an offline tool, an OFT that we know is dangerous even for us, we really minimize using offline tools, because one wrong move on the offline tool, you can brick the entire car and there's no way to recover it. So
Wow.
and what people don't realize is that unless you're connected to the cloud, and even a lot of the ECUs, they're not very stable. The PKC is not that stable. So we often have to reset the PKC, the phone key controller, so that you can get to unlocking your car and it actually works. So having the connectivity between the device, the vehicle, and the cloud is critically important. And like I said, there's only one cloud. We can't even bifurcate if we wanted to split the cloud up. There's only one cloud because all the vehicles are hard-coded, and the T-boxes are hard-coded to our cloud. Unless you just start ripping up hardware and changing the hardware, and get Magna to give you a whole new set of hardware. All these vehicles are connected to the same cloud. And our job is to keep the cloud healthy. We're doing that for American lease vehicles right now. And we're doing everything that we can do to keep the vehicle stable and to keep those drivers healthy and happy. And right now, for the rest, there is a cost. When you're connected to T-Mobile, when you're connected to the cloud, there's absolutely a cost. I can show you the bills that are out there.
Yeah, if
And
you want to dive anywhere, anything you're willing to dive into there, feel free, because there are questions about this.
yeah. So you can see the breakdown, from December, January, February, and the work that we've been doing to reduce cost. And some of the reducing of cost of T-Mobile is just, hey, if you're on, you're paying. If you're not on, you're not paying. Some of it is just cutting down the vehicles that are not active or that are not FOA members. But the Azure costs, we're continuing to cut down. Data storage, we're shifting from S3 to bare metal. We're doing everything that we can to reduce various cloud costs here. For some of the bills that we're seeing, these Microsoft bills, this is from December. The bills are the bills. You can't get around it. We've been trying to reduce the cost, and we've been working hard at it, and the team's been doing a great job in marching forward. So whether it's T-Mobile, whether it's AWS, whether it's Azure, the bills are all basically there. They are what they are. So Adam, we're very transparent. We've been very open. Like I said, we've been trying to work with the FOA, but it's very hard to have those kinds of relationship when they don't recognize the work that we're doing, and they think that they can do it better, and they rather spend the resources that the members have been paying them to build their own app and build their own solution. But we're just being very honest with you what the state of the Fisker cloud is and what we're trying to do with Fisker owners. So, if there's no other way, given the work that we've already done, we could just offer all of this, directly to the owners and just maybe not have the middleman in between. But look, we're open, we're pragmatic. At the end of the day, this is not our main focus.
Right, obviously, you're working on that car, and you're working with FedEx, and you're working with partnering with companies, talking to people from Uber, all of this stuff. This was something that American Lease had asked you, because you're in partnership with them with the Uber development, to take on as a side project to keep these cars that they had purchased on the road. Is that,
That's right.
can we take it from the point of view of let's say I just bought one, right? I found one on a used lot somewhere and I just bought it. And let's say I watched this video, or someone, I went online and found this resource. How would someone reach out to you, or have you, I mean, this is a very new development, obviously, that you're publicly sharing this stuff, but how would someone reach out to you in the event that they wanted like an individual solution? Are you developing that, or?
We will set up a website and a portal, we will set up a communication line for those who want to work with us directly, and we'll make it more official. Obviously, this just transpired the last couple of days, and
Right.
our expectation originally was to go and service FOA, but since sounds like they don't really want to work with us or pay for the services, we'll look at how we provide the services directly to owners that are out there looking for help.
And so, just for clarification, these bills that you've shown me just now are not individually broken down as like per byte of data, and they've also been shared publicly, not publicly, but shared with the FOA board members, however that communication channel was set up. So they were aware of the bills and aware of the commitment and aware of the good faith, essentially.
Yes, we've been sharing these bills with them, and we are a very open kimono, like I said. But I don't know what the decision-making process is, in that group. We just want to be able to create a solution that works for them. We've been working in good faith, and American Lease, I think, have been working in good faith with them for the last 6-7 months since they came together and was making these plans. But I think there may be some folks that think that they are more confident about building their own solution and creating their own cloud. Which, look, I'm a technologist. If we have the source code and we're managing it from the inside, and we can't even split the baby, and we can't bifurcate this, and we know how complex it is, and we know how hard it is to update the ECUs and the software on the different systems, and how easy it is to break it. And if there's no QA quality control and doing all of that, I would have a hard time believing that they have the resources, the manpower, and the capabilities to pull something off. So I don't know what they're communicating. I don't read the Reddits. I don't
Unfortunately, I think you have to be a member. I don't have access to it either. So I don't know what the communications have been like, or what the volume is, or what the transparency is. But yeah, it sounds to me like a lot of the development, in fact, basically all of the development for the entire fleet that's either owners or American Lease has been done with you in-house. Is that?
That's right. It's between our OB Loop team and Indigo team that's been working on getting this solution maintained, fixed, debugged, stable, and so we now understand how it works, and we've been improving on the system. So now it's stable. We're happily serving American Lease on the fleet of vehicles, and we've been significantly improving the quality of service over time. And so certainly we can do this for for the owners that are out there that want to work with us. So stand by, and we'll put something together now that our hands are kind of forced to offer this directly. But we're happy to make that happen. We want these vehicles to be healthy, and we want them to be capable. And
well, they were feature incomplete, right? These were not delivered feature complete. And what you're trying to do is kind of emulate and develop a complete picture based on what was originally thought, and more. Obviously, CarPlay was never in the picture for the original car. And so through your services, eventually, obviously, you said this is brand new and we're just figuring this out. you have the potential to develop and offer all of these services. And this development is not going to be paused because these are all relevant things for the American lease fleet.
That's right. What everybody should understand is to support each additional vehicle, there is incremental costs, from connectivity, from data. And, we believe that, for those who want to keep their vehicles healthy and to work with us, we want your feedback. We want to understand, if this is an option that's viable for us to provide. If you do want it,
I'll tell you what, let's put it in the description.
I'll create an email address for those who are interested to just send it to that email address that are specifically for ocean owners, and then have the ocean owners contact us and give us feedback. And then what we'll do is then we'll start having, now that it seems like we're at a loggerhead with the FOA. We'll figure out another way for us to communicate with the ocean owners. Again, we're doing this in good faith. We're open to ways of how to serve this group, and we're already doing it for American Lease, so we might as well be able to do it for all ocean owners.
Will, it's been an honor to talk to you. I got way more than my money's worth here. That you being able and willing to share that your development, your technology, and some of the innovations, like you said, innovation is the key word, right? And with us. And thank you so much for doing that. Anything else you want to add?
Yeah, I think at this point, what I wanted to add is that I think, for me, I'm a pragmatic entrepreneur, and what I hope for is I think people have the good intentions at the end of last year, to want to put together a service, and maybe the temperature has been dialed out because of a lot of fear. And a lot of times people have fear when they don't understand what's on the other side. And maybe people don't understand how complex of a system this is. Maybe people don't understand why the Azure AWS and T-Mobile bills are the way they are. Maybe they don't understand who this group of people that are serving and coding and QAing and putting it into DevOps, and what this group of people are doing. And when there's unknown, there's uncertainty, there's fear, there's doubt, people's anxiety level gets higher. And I completely sympathize with the owners that are out there that have spent all of their money to buy this vehicle. And what we want to do, including the staff here that owns a lot of these oceans, is we actually want to serve this group of owners that have put their money to buy this vehicle, and they want it to last. They want it to stay healthy. So I don't want to point fingers. I don't really honestly know what's going on in the FOA organization and how the votes are going or not going. And I think there are some very good people that are earnestly spending their own time, part-time. I mean, and they all have their day jobs. I think they gathered together, galvanized at the time of crisis last year, but we're now past crisis. This is no longer crisis mode. This is, how do we systematically look at paying the bills and keeping people on task to deliver value, to end users. This is, we're not the bad guys. In fact, if anything, we've been doing really good work here. The team have been doing really good work, and we've been doing our best under a very difficult situation. American Lease, definitely not the bad guys. In fact, they have been paying for these bills for the last number of months on good faith, to keep FOA, vehicles stable. And we're trying to create this, three-party to share the cost and still create the value. But I think out of fear, out of uncertainty, out of unknown, people react sometimes in a very defensive way. And that defensive way is basically saying that, hey, there's not enough money in the pool, that's left that from what members have paid to pay for these bills. Well, that's just a miscalculation of how much it costs to operate. So now that if you understand clearly, put together a proposal, and for the members that want to pay, then give them the service and do it right rather than trying to do offline tools that can brick your vehicle and PKC that are unstable and that still need the cloud connection. So do it right. Do it with the people that actually know how to do it and that's been working on it rather than trying to hack the system. So that's my message, I think, to both the FOA management and as well as the FOA members and anybody else that want to own an ocean and want to work with us. We're now going to scramble to put together a solution that people can sign up to, and we'll set up a service and we'll set up something that those who want to work with us, let's start that communication process. And in the meantime, the team is very excited about not only supporting the ocean vehicles, which we've learned a lot in this process, Adam.
For sure.
But at the same time, we're very focused on delivering the next generation of light commercial electric vehicles and light consumer passenger carrying vehicles to market. So lots of fun things that are coming. We'd rather focus on the fun things and the good things to come. And really appreciate you having me on for the first time here, being able to share this story and share what we're doing very openly and very honestly.
Well, I can't thank you enough. And you have a wonderful team, it looks like, and you guys are developing big things. And it really does show kind of the level of expertise that's been implemented to continue the solution for Fisker owners. And obviously, I'm really excited about the Dash and all of your new developments in vehicles. Please feel free to come on anytime if you have something you'd like to share publicly. I'm at this point, Will, I'm a fan. So congratulations again, and give my best to your development team and all your staff there at IndiGOtech. And thank you so much for being on here. I think we'll leave it at that. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Adam, for spending your Saturday morning.
Hey, that's what we're here for. Thanks again, Will.
Hey, smash the like button.
Thank you.